On February 25th, 1957, a cardboard box was discovered in the woods of Philadelphia, with the body of a young unidentified boy wrapped in a blanket inside. This boy would go unidentified for 65 years until just last week, when officials would finally be able to put a name to the boy known as America's unknown child. On December 8th, 2022, the Philadelphia Police Department would hold a press conference in which they would identify the child as 4-year-old Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Despite this, the circumstances that led to his untimely death, the perpetrator who took his life, or any information regarding why his death or disappearance went unreported still remains unknown to this day. But it all started when Joseph's body was discovered in February 1957, 65 years, 9 months, and 14 days ago. A young boy hunting for muskrats in the woods off Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia would stumble across a cardboard box reportedly formerly used to hold a bassinet and realize that there was a body inside. Ultimately, however, the young boy would decide not to tell the police out of fear that they would confiscate his traps. Several days later, a college student would also come across the boy in the box, and although he initially decided not to contact anyone about it, the following day he would have a change of heart hearing about Mary Jane Barker, a 4-year-old girl who went missing from New Jersey, on the same day that young boy discovered Joseph's body. This would lead him to ultimately alert the police to his discovery, but it is not known just how many people seem to have come across the body and how many days it remained there. The disturbing truth about this discovery, however, was the condition that the body was in. Since it was in February, one may think that the boy was something of a runaway and froze to death while trying to take shelter in the box, but this was not the case. Instead, it would be determined that Joseph had sustained what was described as extensive physical abuse, showing signs of bruises, scars, and malnourishment, meaning not only was he beaten while still alive, but he also seemed to be denied food for a while prior to his death. The cause of his death was identified as blunt force trauma. News of the boy in the box spread around the area like wildfire, with reports of the Philadelphia Inquirer printing hundreds of thousands of posters and sending them all over, hoping someone would come forward and identify him. They would even go as far as to include them in gas bills that people would receive in the mail. But despite the police's optimism and confidence in him eventually being identified, no one would actually come forward and put a name to the boy. Over 270 officers would comb through the area the body was discovered, and although they managed to find a couple of things, most notably a handkerchief with the letter G on it, they would not really find any leads they could follow. In one final effort to identify the boy before burying him, the police actually took a photo of Joseph fully dressed, sitting upright in a chair, in hopes providing an image more akin to what he may have looked like while alive may help identify him. But then again, there was nothing. Every few years or during an anniversary he would start to get some media attention, ultimately resulting in a few leads for officers, but like all the ones before, those too would run cold. However, it is ultimately said to be thanks to Remington Bristow that the case even remained alive, due to the fact that he followed any and every lead to its conclusion, as well as dedicated his own time to it while working as an investigator with the medical examiner's office. It would actually be thanks to him that the police would come up with one of, if not the most compelling lead in the investigation. You see, desperate for new information, Remington sought the aid of the paranormal, and after traveling to New Jersey, would meet with a psychic. The psychic would go on to describe a house matching that of a foster home located just 1.5 miles away from where Joseph was discovered. Wanting to put this to the test further, he would even go and bring the psychic to the site and allow them to guide him to the home. Reportedly, the psychic walked directly to it. This intrigued Remington, and as a result, reportedly to his death, believed this foster home had some connection in Joseph's death. He would even go to an estate sale on the property and find a bassinet similar to the one sold with the box discovered, and a blanket similar to the one Joseph was wrapped in. Despite this, however, all 21 of the children the family was fostering would be accounted for, which would ultimately result in the police determining that the family likely had nothing to do with the case. Despite his best efforts, near obsession, and the fact he reportedly kept a death mask of Joseph in his desk as a reminder to himself to never give up, Bristow would pass away in 1993, having never discovered the identity of the boy in the box. In 2002, another lead would arise. This time, however, a woman only ever identified as Martha told police her mother had purchased a young boy in the summer of 1954 from his birth parents. She would go on to say that the boy was subject to years of abuse, and one night after vomiting up his meal was beaten so severely he died that night while being bathed. It was at this point that Martha's mother cut his hair herself and dumped the boy's body in the box that had already been there at the scene. This would actually end up matching information the police had never revealed to the public, such as the fact that his fingers were wrinkly from water and his stomach contained the remains of a meal that Martha had reported he ate the night of his death. On top of that, the statement would also match that of a witness's statement from 1957, after he reportedly saw a mother and a daughter stopped on the side of the road within the proximity and time frame of the discovery of the body. But there were some issues with this confession as well. To start, Martha had a history of mental illness and had even confessed to other things in the past which turned out not to be true. Neighbors who had access to her home also reported never seeing a young boy and called the possibility of them housing him in secret around that time ridiculous. And most of all, although this was obviously unknown to detectives at the time, she said the boy's name was Jonathan, which we now know is obviously not the case. So although this theory was plausible, police were not able to confirm it. After that, the case really got cold. This is, until recently. On Thursday, December 8th, it was revealed that the boy's identity had been found thanks to modern DNA technology, and as we already know, was Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Joseph, who was born on February 25th, is also reported to have living siblings. Even though it took Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick almost 3 years to make a DNA sample usable, they were also able to identify Joseph's mother and father. To the best of my knowledge, they have not yet revealed or discovered what exactly happened to Joseph, or why his death or disappearance was never reported. In fact, they have yet to even reveal the identities of his parents, or if they were even still alive, as it wouldn't be unreasonable to believe them to be in their 80s. But the truth is that the reported cause of death was blunt force trauma, and due to clear signs of abuse, was and is being treated as a murder. In fact, they've urged everyone to remember that this is still very much an ongoing investigation, and they are currently in the process of obtaining records regarding the births, deaths, and adoption records for all the children of the woman believed to be Joseph's mother. Although he was initially buried back in the 50s, his body was exhumed a number of times for DNA testing purposes, and eventually found its way to Ivy Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia, where it currently rests to this day, with a gravestone reading America's Unknown Child and an image of a baby lamb on top. The Philadelphia Police Department is offering $20,000 for information that leads to an arrest, and is urging anyone with information to call 215-686-TIPS. Well, that's it for now. Be sure to like this video to help the algorithm, and subscribe to see more content like it. If you enjoyed this video, why not check out this one, where I talk about the most shocking video found on YouTube. I'll see you next time.